There we go. Well, I hope everyone who's listening tonight and those who are going to be catching up online later on can really take this message to heart tonight. As chance would have it, I got dealt the topic of asking for help, and so I extrapolated on that a little bit. And the real title of today's message is "The Power of Asking for Help and Boosting Business Success." Okay, so if you want to boost your business success, whether you're just starting, whether you're an intrapreneur, an entrepreneur, or if it's a family-run business. In fact, the more I started thinking about this, the more application I saw for the lessons that I pulled out to be used personally and in your family first, and then take it out from there. So I'm going to start off. One of my business partners, Coach Crafts, he played NFL for the Philadelphia Eagles for a short time, and then he was injured, didn't even get to play an actual game. But he has this post. He said, "How to lose." Now, how many people? How about that for a topic? How to lose. And he had 5 points. Number 1, please everyone. 2, stay passive. 3, avoid risks. 4, be politically correct. Accept rather than expect for number 5. And last was fail to ask. So failing to ask is actually how to lose. So think about that a little bit. This is a big one. You know, people always want to do things on their own, and you know, there's some satisfaction in that, but failing to ask is setting yourself up for failure. And just think about that for a second. Failing to ask and collaborate with other people is setting yourself up for failure. And that's a tough one. Most of you know what I've gone through in the last 3 months. And I can tell you, I've had to face my weaknesses, admit my weaknesses and my shortcomings, risked embarrassment, and really looked at my flaws and found new value in my family and in my team. You know, by risking all of that, you find extra value and you get extra out of it. And I hope you never have to go through the sort of thing I went through to start getting to ask for help more often. But I can tell you that I needed to do it more often, and I didn't. And most times that's probably where most of you are as well. We always want to just push through. I'm not going to burden other people. I just want to get it done. So I've got this in 3 different parts. The first one is this, for those of you taking notes. Reasons business people fail to ask for help. Okay, the reasons that people fail to ask for help. And I got 5 of them. First is fear of appearing weak or incompetent. Kind of underneath that, and I'll just talk about this for a little bit, is fear of judgment or loss of credibility. You know, you somehow think you're going to diminish your stature if you're asking someone for help. And the solution to this is ask for help. Just understand that asking for help demonstrates strength, not weakness. And it's a commitment to continuous improvement. And it's another way to acknowledge the expertise of other people. So it's a way of building relationship, forging more relationship. Number 2, the reasons people fail to ask for help is desire for full control. And I had a conversation with Jim this morning, Jim Riley, and I was talking about how hard it is for me sometimes to ask for help, because I know it would just be easier if I did it on my own, because I know how I want it done, and it takes more time to educate someone on how I want it done. And that's not a problem, except I have another issue, and that's patience. It's faster and easier for me to just do something myself most times than to ask someone else and then have to go back and either correct them, admitting that I didn't tell them exactly what I wanted to do, or didn't train them properly. So if you're applying this from the business standpoint, your training is insufficient, or your expectations have not been clearly, reiterated to people. So it's on us. The burden is on us. And that's something that I realize about myself. There's a little stroke of perfectionism in me and a big stroke of lack of patience. And both of those things get down to a desire for control. So unraveling that desire for control is what makes it interesting. Now, the other part of this, and some of you have probably worked with, I assume, been involved with people who have worked with narcissists, where they need and demand full control. I know, Mr. Cartwright, you probably have in your line of work. You've dealt with a lot of narcissists, and their desire for full control is actually a sickness. So us desiring control is normal, but we can reach that unhealthy aspect. And so knowing where that line is and recognizing that in other people is really a sign of emotional maturity and social maturity, to figure out if people are really snowing you, or if they're giving you little bits of control just to act like they're giving you control. So just be knowledgeable about that. One of the solutions to that desire for full control is, number one, recognizing it, and realizing the benefits of collaboration and diverse perspectives. And shared decision making can lead, it doesn't always lead, but it can lead to better outcomes. So if you really are wanting to get your business, your personal life, your family on better footing, then giving up some of that control is a necessity. Number three, reasons people fail to ask for help: lack of awareness. Some people are so busy, so focused, so driven, right, in a way that they've got the little blinders on. They're running down the track, they're running their race, and they can't be diverted to the left or to the right. You've got to have some situational awareness, especially in business, especially when it comes to competition, especially when it comes to customer service. You better have some extra awareness. And people who don't have that awareness, they're absolutely oblivious, number one. They're in denial, number two, or they feel invincible. All three of those are danger zones. All right. So going from that, encourage the networking, attend industry events, get around other people in your area of expertise. And I know most people on this call probably do that, just as a matter of course, but plug into it and do it with intentionality. So if you are plugging into those things, network with other people, stay up to date on available support systems, and utilize online platforms and communities. And this is one of those, right? This is more on the global part of things. But when it comes to specifics on your business, make sure that you're dialed in a little bit deeper. Number four, reasons people fail to ask for help: they overestimate the cost. A perceived financial burden to seeking help will keep people from asking for help. And sometimes that's where you just have to sit down and do the ROI. What's the return on my investment if I pay somebody for marketing advice? If I outsource some of the stuff I have control of, what is going to be the outcome? Number one, it's probably speed. Things will happen faster when you get collaborative help. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to avoid pitfalls and mistakes by learning it the hard way. Jim and I say all the time, we've paid the dummy tax, and I'm sure we've all paid a little bit of our own dummy tax already, but, don't overestimate the cost of that. The dummy tax is one of those costs, and not coming to market with something as fast as you possibly could is another one of those costs. All those little things can add up. So make sure that you're looking at things from an ROI point of view. And there are many resources that are affordable and even free, especially with the internet today. I mean, you can Google anything. So if you're not spending a little bit of extra time Googling some of your problem areas, or just looking for efficiencies, maybe start doing that. What's one thing you can add? And we've mentioned this so many times. What's that one little degree? What one little change can you make that can make a difference? So that can be a free thing. from getting up earlier in the morning, doing what you have to do. And those of you who are in entrepreneur outfits, remember that EAP, employee assistance programs, most larger employers and even smaller ones today do have some sort of an EAP. So employee assistance programs can do a lot more than just navigating you through marital, financial. I mean, they're pretty deep, and they've got a lot of feelers out there and a lot of connections, including business connections. So utilize all available resources, especially entrepreneurs. That's something that is already there and a resource for you. Number 5 reasons for business people fail to ask for help is ego and stubbornness. And I kind of hit on this on that narcissistic one with the desire for full control, but ego and stubbornness is just one of those. That's where you get the people saying, well, we've always done it that way and it's always been just fine. That's ego talking. That's not business. That's not smart, intelligent business talking. That's ego. And sometimes people are just stubborn. They're set in their ways. And if that's you, stop it. Okay. How's that? Get off the high horse and try something new. Or how about this? If the horse is dead, get off. Right? They always say, don't beat a dead horse. What's worse than that? People who are still sitting on it, beating it. Get the saddle off. Put it on a new horse. Do something different. So again, fostering a growth mindset is going to get you out of that. Learn from failures, seek assistance, and this is one of my big ones for later on, but be humble. Just be authentic. You don't know it all. There's no way you can know it all. You can be an expert in your field, but I guarantee you still don't know it all. I wish I did, right? Sure wish I did, but every day it's like, man, there's something new. How did I go my whole life without learning that? All right, so here's 4 points on how to overcome all of these obstacles. Gave you little tidbits in all of them, but here are 4 points. Promote a supportive company or family culture. Again, these tips are not just for business. These tips can be for your family relationships. This can help yourself, number 1. Number 2, your family. Number 3, the people you work with or the people that you employ. So promote a supportive culture with that. And that just means encourage open communication and mutual support. If you're willing to go to people and ask for their help, they're going to be more willing to come to you when they have a problem or they need help. And that keeps problems small before they grow into big crappy things, right? If your employees know that they've ticked off a customer, on the customer service end of things, and they come to you right away and say, man, I didn't handle a situation earlier as well as I could have. I'm sorry about that. Would your employees feel like they could come to you and tell you that? Or are they going to be afraid of you? And then all of a sudden you get a bad Yelp review or something like that. And then, or they've written letters, or they start talking to the 15 people they say that a bad customer service interaction is going to happen. So you got to be on top of the little stuff. And by encouraging that, promoting that culture, you can nip all those things in the bud. And that's going to get you on the fast track. That will help your business. Number 2, develop emotional intelligence. And there are some people out there that just really, I know you all know them. I run into them every day, most of them on the road, right? They have a word for them, idiots. Right? They don't have any emotional intelligence. And you have to wonder how many times people call you an idiot. When you're driving down the road, when did you fail to turn your turn signal on when you changed lanes and someone got cut off? I did it myself a couple of months ago and I just barely avoided a crash. And it was on me. Oops. But develop a little emotional intelligence. And that just means being vulnerable, being authentic. We screw up. We don't have all the answers, and it's okay. That means we can grow. There's room for growth there. So provide training in active listening. Becoming a better listener is going to help you with your emotional intelligence. When someone hints at something, that there is a problem or that they didn't do something right, or they don't feel comfortable with a project you've doled out to them, or whatever it is, It's your job to pick up on those clues, because you got to be the greater person in this scenario. Somebody's got to be ahead. I heard this a long time ago. If you've got multiple heads on an organization, it's not structure. Something with multiple heads is a monster. So you've got to be that emotional head. Somebody's got to be in charge. Somebody's got to take the high road. Somebody's got to be delegating stuff out there. And if you've got more than one person doing that, or especially if it's staff that's under you who's subverting your authority and going past, right? You better be in tune to that stuff. You better have your emotional feelers out there and know what's happening. And the bigger your organization gets, the more successful you get, the easier it is to lose touch with that stuff. So just a reminder. Number 3, facilitate access to resources. And this is something I love about when Jim and I started with the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. One of the first things we wanted was a resource library. And the books that we read, it's like, how can you pass on information? It's a resource. And rather than going out there and reading 15 different books and you're like, maybe I got something out of a couple of those, but to have somebody who's already filtered through that's a resource for you. And so take advantage of those resources that are already there and create, whenever you can, in your company culture and even your own library, right? Create a central hub of information, readily accessible. Jim and I, when we were teaching last year at the school, the private school, one of the things that we wanted, and we never got it up and off the ground, but we made it happen on the back end, was we wanted a resource library. In our classroom, what we wanted was all the books that we recommended. We wanted them right there, and check them out for free. I know a lot of you don't live around me, but I'll tell you what, I've got books, and if you ever want a book, they're free to loan. Jim and I trade book resources, and then if they're good enough, we actually buy one for one another. That's always helpful too. Taylor and I share book reading. I know Riley is always throwing out, you're a great avid reader, Riley, and she's always throwing out there on social media, her tips and what books are good. So that's a resource. Tapping into people who are reading and developing themselves are going to help you if you tap into that. So that was number 3, facilitate access to resources. And number 4, this is the easy one, and we don't do enough of it, unfortunately. Celebrate success stories. If you want to overcome those reasons for not asking for help right away, start celebrating the successes you get when you did ask for help. It makes a huge difference. Even on the personal end of things. I needed some help. I had one of my dogs. This is after I had surgery and I couldn't lift anything for a very long time, unfortunately. One of my dogs is a digger, and I wasn't walking the dog because obviously I wasn't walking. And this dog dug underneath my composter in the back, and the composter literally caved in and was falling down. A large-sized compost, like a 50-gallon. And I had to ask for help. There's no way I could fix this on my own. Had to ask for help. My son-in-law came over, and not only did he rectify the hole underneath it, he re-landscaped it and made it look better than I ever would have done on my own if I'd have just fixed it. If I'd have just filled in the hole, put some wire down, kept the dog out, it got fixed better than I would have done it myself. And I mean, that was an unexpected win, right? It's just those little things like that can just think, wow, why didn't I ask for help earlier? And yeah, it feels good to get things done on your own, but it feels better to get things done with other people. I promise you, it feels better to get things done with other people. When other people are sharing in your wins, it helps. And it helps even more if they've shared in your suffering also. That's why that being vulnerable makes a difference. If I came to you and I said, hey, I had a heart attack and I almost died, and then I had to go get heart surgery, and none of you knew that I even was sick. Well, it's like, well, he seems like the same guy he was 4 months ago on here, right? I don't look any different. Well, maybe a little bit more gray hair. But if you don't know that I was suffering and that I had to go through a huge struggle, it wouldn't mean as much to you on the outside of it when I come back and say, man, I feel great. I've got a second chance at this. Now it means something. It means more because I've shared that with you. So sharing those success stories, and I mean, that's on the personal level, but we've got business success stories. And Taylor, we actually talked about you last week. You weren't even here, with the Shield Arms opening. And I know Riley's got a new venture on the horizon that we'll hear more about as well. But those success stories about things that you've learned and applied and made things happen that caused your business to grow, or you got a new client, or, Jim, even you've branched off into a whole new career. And I'm telling you, it's like watching one of your kids graduate from college and get their first job. It's exciting to watch the development that happens. And, Bruce, looking at you even and starting a podcast and then going for this high-end client-based thing. I mean, just the vision that you have. And Sam, who's grappled with this stuff, and Wayne, I know you've got yourself in other stuff, and Fred with your podcast. I'm talking to the people who are right on here tonight. It's so exciting to share in your wins, to see what you're doing and that you're thinking outside the box and you're wanting more, and what can I do to get that next leg up? What can I do to get that done? And to see that motivates us to do better. It motivates us to dig in harder. Yeah, I could have just sat here and talked about some stuff, but I'm trying to give you real life stuff that you can put into practice and make your life better, make your family life better, make your social life better, and make your business better. Man, if we can hit all those fronts, and if I only got 1 out of 4 of those, it's still a win. I'll take it. So, last section, and then I'm going to turn it over, and I hope you all have some wins to share with me. Expected benefits to business owners and the business if you do this, okay? If you can actually start asking for help, here are some benefits. Number 1, and this works on the personal level, it works on the social, the family level, and it works for your business. Enhanced problem solving. You will start looking at problems from a different point of view if you ask for help and get other information, other people alongside of you. Diverse perspectives, that's where diversity comes in. Looking for diverse perspectives and expertise for innovative solutions. That's what you're going to get. That's enhanced problem solving. That's a learned trait. That's not something you just get. You got to learn it. You got to practice it. You're going to have faster resolution to challenges, and it will lead to increased productivity. That's what enhanced problem solving does. It gives you increased productivity. Next, improved decision making. Man, if somebody's already made the mistake for you, don't go out and do it again, right? That's improved decision making. Learning from other people's mistakes is the pivotal learned decision making. Learning from your own mistakes is just, I don't know. It makes a lasting lesson, but stupid. There are other ways of doing it. Next, boosted employee morale. And if you don't have employees, it's boosted self-satisfaction. Knowing that you asked for help, that you actually reached out when you should have, when you know you could have done it on your own the hard way, but you reached out for help, it's going to make you feel better that you did that. If your employees are doing it, it's going to make them feel more valued and supported. It will lead to higher job satisfaction for them. And this is the bonus. It leads to loyalty and retention among your staff. And that will save you a small fortune for those of you who are building businesses or will have employees. Business growth and adaptability. That's the next benefit. Agility in responding to market changes and emerging trends. If you're living in a box and you're doing everything by yourself, you are missing out on what's actually happening out there. You've got to have your feelers in the industry. And getting outside access to that and other people's perspective on that will make a huge difference. Increased competitiveness and ability to seize new opportunities is what's going to happen. And it might even make you a little bit more aggressive. instead of just being more passive. And again, that's when I talked about Coach Crafts, one of the things he said was, if you want to fail, stay passive. These tips, by asking for help, will make you more aggressive. So start asking. So this is my exercise for you. Practice using your ask muscle. Don't be an ass, be an ask. Use your ask muscle. If you have a question, if you just don't know, pick up the phone. Jot off an email. Seriously, anything. Just use the ask muscle. The more you use it, the better you're going to get at using it, and you're going to see the benefits from it. And here's the rub. It's humbling. It's humbling to do that. But the best leaders throughout history all have this as a defining characteristic. All the best leaders in history asked for help, and they told people what they needed. And what was that chat down there? Somebody say I used a bad word. An ask muscle. Sam Riley. Okay.
Sounded like ask, Rod. You might have used a bad word.
Ask and it will be given unto you. Okay, ask and it will be given unto you. Which, in fact, let's end it there with Psalm 21. If you have trouble asking other people for help, Psalm 21 is, I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Man, if you can't humble yourself enough to ask a real human being for some help, at least ask the person who created the heavens and the earth. Ask him for help. That's where it can really start. All right. I'll leave it there. Jim, I know you're kind of exhausted after a long weekend. I'm going to toss it to you first, and then we're going to open it up after that to any questions. Actually, before I do that, Jim, I'm going to let everyone know Rachel is off tonight, and not that she owes anyone an explanation, but I think it's pretty cool. This is one of those things that I love about our community here. Her parents were actually in Israel when the war broke out. So they are now back stateside, and they're going to spend some time with her for her birthday because they're leaving for Seattle, and she gets to spend some time with them after being on the hot seat in the world right now. So I think it's pretty awesome that she gets that opportunity. I'm glad, thankful her parents made it out without any problems. But anyway, that's where the other part of this trio is. So Jim, what do you got for us?
Yeah, threaten me with a good time to weigh in, buddy, especially after your foul mouth. I have a few things. First of all, I would encourage everybody. Actually, let me make it this. I want to give everybody homework that's on tonight, and that is to reach out to Rod or I this week and ask us for something. Help with something or ask us for something, because I'm sure there's something on your business to-do list, or you're pondering about business that we can be helpful with. So reach out to one of us. Not fair to Rachel because she's not on here. And if you're listening to this at a later date, you've got a week from the time you hear this to reach out to us. All right. So there's your homework. What's interesting, I've said this before, Rod said this before, is as humans, we love to help other people. If we love to help other people, why are we so afraid to ask? And speaking of which, there's a few of you on this call tonight that I will be giving you a personal phone call, because I know somebody asked you to do something for me and you did. And I wanted to talk to you about it. So expect a call from me as early as tomorrow. And I thank you for that. But the point is, somebody asked you for something and you did it, because you wanted to. So there's nothing wrong with you asking other people to do something. I think Rod basically nailed the lecture on asking, but there's a couple things that I want to weigh in on. They might be slight turns. I've got a coaching client outside of this group, and he's very buttoned up. He's very successful, but he's bottomed out on his business. And he's like, Jim, I need to grow my business. What are some of your thoughts? Well, Rod touched on this. He said, put your ego aside, get out and do something, get out and have some interaction with people. Well, this particular individual, he's not a member of any groups. He doesn't attend any events. He doesn't have any networks outside of, his real small circle. Just a simple recommendation of joining some, whether that's young entrepreneurs or some kind of political thing or whatever it is, just get out and open up your horizon to more people will make a substantial difference. And that might require you asking others like, hey, how do I get involved? Or what is there to get involved with? And start opening up your network of people. And again, that sometimes might just be an ask. Something happened to me this afternoon, literally the call I took before jumping on here. Again, this is kind of a left turn from the topic of discussion, but it was about asking for the abnormal. Now, a lot of I had cattle on my property the last several years. We sold them all going into spring, knew that I might bring some back, but the dollar's tight. I don't want to put all my money out for some more cows, but there's some services that I can offer. And an individual that came to me about a month ago was looking for something. And I realized if I put 2 and 2 together, I could trade him my services for some cattle. I thought there's no way he's going to do that. I know he needs this and I know it costs some money, but he's a cattle rancher down in Dillon. And I reached out, I said, this might be a little out of the box, but I'm willing to do this for you in exchange for some cows. Without even hesitation, he said yes. Like, yeah, we can make that happen. Let's do it. So here he is solving a problem for me. I'm going to solve a problem for him, but it was all because I wasn't afraid to ask something pretty far out of the box. So I want to encourage you in your own business lives, if there's something that you're thinking, this might work, don't be afraid to ask and at least lob it out there. And you can always preface it with saying, yeah, this might be a crazy idea, but what do you think? You never know. You never know unless you ask. So looks like I'll be picking up some cattle towards the end of the month. We'll seal that deal this week and I'll let you guys know how it goes. The last comment I have, and I really hope people have some questions tonight for Rod, is Rod mentioned the resources. And we've got those resources on the back end of the syndicate here. And there's a lot of great books, documents, and stuff like that. Well, Rod gave me a book called Speak Like Churchill, Stand Like Lincoln. That's the name of it, right, Rod?
Yep.
Well, I've had it for probably 3 months. And I picked it up this weekend. And I used some of the value in the first 2 chapters of that book, Rod, to add value to what I was doing this weekend. I thought, gosh, perfect timing. I had this book that Rod let me borrow, said it was great, and I hadn't cracked it open yet. And, thinking I know it all. It was on speaking, to be honest with you, which I've been doing my whole life. But the value that I got out of the first 2 chapters, I thought, I'm so glad I had this book, this resource from you, Rod. So thank you for that. And it just was a reminder that we don't know it all. And it's okay to utilize resources around us or ask and get beyond our little circumference there. So thank you. That's all my comments. I see Taylor's got her hand up. So I'll turn the mute button off.
Yes.
Do that, Taylor.
Hey, everybody. Well, I appreciated the talk tonight. And that's definitely a muscle that I need to exercise more. It's always uncomfortable. I'm always uncomfortable when I reach out to ask Jim, or it's more comfortable when I ask my dad a question because I grew up doing that. But it's definitely something that I have to get better at. But I will say that I see the results come back like tenfold every time I do get out of my comfort zone to ask someone else's professional opinion instead of just trying to figure it out on my own. I've definitely seen that in my business. So kind of unrelated, but it is a question. I am, and I've sort of asked it in another way maybe before, but I'm kind of wrestling with this desire for my business to have, how do I say it? Kind of better advertising, maybe not better advertising, but a more professional look. I have a vision that I've had since the beginning of having some really nice videography. And I'm just wondering, like, what would you guys recommend? What percentage of what we're making should go into advertisement for our business, because right now I've got a few other products in production. So I do have funds allocated for those things, but I'm just wondering, like, how much should I be continuing to push funds into production over investing in some good quality advertisement? So whoever has input on that.
I'm going to throw it to Jim for maybe some numbers for you, but specifically, I would first say that you should be allocating part of, I know you're already generating money and you're putting some of that back into product. Some of that should be already allocated for an advertising marketing fund. So some of that, you should be building an account for that already. If you didn't have that as part of your business plan, make it one, in the financial section. So start putting money aside for that. And then the second thing I would say is, how fast do you want to grow? And target your market? Are you wanting to grow more locally first and then take it from there? How fast are you wanting to grow? Because where you advertise and how much you spend on that advertising is going to be, dictated by, what your vision is for that and how much you can handle. If you got, all of a sudden you spent money on a great advertising campaign, got it in the right parts, the right hands, and somebody said, yeah, I need 10,000 units, in 60 days, can you deliver? So, I kind of backward plan it a little bit, but then as far as a percentage of budget, I've been out of the advertising thing with budget. I used to have a percentage in retail and wholesale for what I advertised, but it's been so many decades now, I don't remember if there's a hard and fast rule. So Jim, if you got any advice on that?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. I've typically always looked at, like, especially in small business, because the numbers are smaller, that it almost takes about 20% of your profit, your gross profit, to jump back into some type of marketing. Some people will do it by unit. So if you made $100 per unit in profit, first $5 goes to marketing, or using the 20%, $20 goes towards marketing. You can do it either way, but I'm with Rod. If you don't have a budget built out into your business plan, I would start there and make that a line item. If you don't have a budget or a budget template, I'd be happy to send you one. I'm not sure we have a generic on the back end of Young Entrepreneurs, but I'd be happy to send you one. I do have a generic one where you can build out. And so the way that I'd look at that is say, I'd start with, here's what my marketing should look like in an ideal scenario, where, just as an example, let's just say you want to advertise on Instagram or boost posts on Facebook, and you're not sure what that number is. Maybe you start with what you think would be a good number. Let's just say it's $100 a month, right? So then you build that budget out, you get $1,200 a year. Now you look at your resources in the actual business. Like, can we afford $100 a month? Yeah, we can. Actually, that's 3% of our sales. So maybe we should jump that up. Then all of a sudden your marketing plan starts to take on a life that goes well beyond just the numbers. And then you can start looking at the quality of that marketing, what that looks like. Maybe you hire a videographer to do high quality content, and maybe it's a model outside of yourself, where you can start adding some variety to what you're pushing out there, because the money's there, right? So there's a couple steps that you need to take first. And then within those steps, you need to make sure you understand what your identity is, so that when you start to build out your marketing plan, that you're marketing in a way that enhances your identity, who you are, where you want to go. And then I would say, finally, to Rod's point, you don't want to grow too fast, because that can, put you under on the production side and the amount of money that it's going to take to do that. Another thing that I would say too is, I don't know your personal finances, but one thing that I look at is, if you don't need to draw money out of that company, you should be putting everything back into that and making sure that you put it right back in the right buckets. And so when you start doing that, it would actually increase your average that you would spend on marketing, because you're not drawing a salary, or you're not paying for a warehouse or something like that. You're actually you have the ability to do more, and then extra money would also go towards production. So you have a lot of factors. And I'm happy to work through that with you if you want and give you a budget. Riley, yes, I can send you a template as well. No problem. So hopefully that it's not a specific answer to you, but start with 20%, see how that looks on paper and forecast that out.
I'm going to follow that up too. And when you're forecasting it out, see how long it takes you to spend that 20%. You know, if all the sales you've already done, you take 20%, if you haven't set it aside, say, what would have that amount been? And then how would you spend that money? Right. And we did a whole section in our class at the school. And it's like, you've got a lot of choices. You know, there's from billboards to radio to TV to, you know, newspapers and flyers and magazines, if people even read those anymore now. But I mean, where would you spend the money? Then now you have to start researching, where does that money go? Right. It's easy if you give it to Facebook or something and say, okay, spend $100 a month. But if you're going to target market different things, and maybe that's it, you could maybe do direct mail pieces if you're looking to do more wholesale orders. You know, you might be looking at a direct mail piece as opposed to something else. So just look at what it would take to spend that money. You know, it's like, okay, now you got the money, now it's advertising, but what does that mean? It still has to go to someone else. And that's where it can get fun, actually. Is that a good enough for you, Taylor?
Yeah, I think I would love, Jim, if you could send me that template that you were talking about as well. The one Riley mentioned too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Tandy, will you both email or text me your email addresses so that I can, not on this call, but on my phone, then I will shoot it back to you. So because I don't know if I have both your emails, but happy to do it. The other thing too, is you start to drill into, this is where it gets fun. You start to drill into what your budget looks like. And then you say, okay, I want to do some high quality video. Then you come back to the group and you tap the group like, hey, who knows anybody that I can get high quality video content from, you know, at a good price. And then you start drilling into that network. And now all of a sudden your dollars are going further, you know, especially when you think about video with your skill set, you probably know how to clip out little clips to make that video go 10X. I know that's what Samantha does. If she buys one video that she might spend $500 on, she can make that video last for a month or more on content or ads or reels or things that just live on forever. So, you know, come back to the group once you've identified on how you want to market and you know what that budget is.
Great. Thank you so much. Super helpful.
Yep.
Any other hands up out here? See how easy it is to ask?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
this is
Riley.
So I am working on getting together to get a small business loan. And I'm kind of getting, I'm going into retail. I've never done retail before. And I have to put together like my financial projections. And I'm kind of stuck on that. And I'm wondering if there's any type of resources or advice that you guys can provide for that. Or yeah, or how to even like kind of put it together.
Well, I loved retail, Riley. And the first thing, you know the product that you're going to sell and you know your clientele. And what you have to figure out, and I believe me, I know what your goal is here, and I've already been contemplating it. But you need to figure out how many of what size. And this is the thing when you get into regular retail with clothing or boots or whatever it happens to be, right? What are the most common sizes? This is where you use the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule. You're going to want to put, 80% of your money in 20% of that product line, because that's where the sales are going to come from. But you have to carry the size below it and the size above it just to get people bracketed into it sometimes. So I said to sell a pair of size 10 shoes, if they're $300 dress shoes, to sell a size 10, you need to have a 10.5 and a size 9.5 also. People want to try it on because things are always different. So you're going to have to budget for some of that, but using the Pareto principle will help with that, especially in retail when you're looking at what kind of inventory to have on hand. And
Mhm.
then you need to know what your wholesale prices are. So once you get, what your staple is, build your staple. What is it you want? And then what are the prices of those? And then how much inventory it takes to get you where you're going to have ongoing sales. And always use other people's money. If there's dating programs, we're going to put that into the mix, and what the turnaround time is. Because if you can use samples to make sales, right? Just buy the samples and then say, okay, we'll get this in your size. It'll be here in 3 days. Will that work for you? Sometimes you can let someone else do the warehousing. So that's something, if you've got a list of what you're going to carry, and then break that down. Do you need a small, extra small, or, with women's sizing, zeros, twos, ones, fours? I don't know how that all works, but you need a basic staple of what's in the closet, right? And then
Right.
you're going to have backstock. And where are you going to put the backstock, and how much do you need? That's where, I can help you with some of that stuff once you get that dialed in. But what's going to be on the face of the store first? Let's start with that. And then,
Okay.
what are your wholesale prices on it? And then
Mhm.
we'll work on retail markup too. Which
Okay.
we'll start with Keystone. And then I think I told you once before about Tombstone.
Yes.
Right. If you all don't know that, if you ask anymore, you're dead. That's Tombstone. So you want to be able to turn the inventory. So strategy for turning it quicker is always helpful. So start with the basics, build it out, extrapolate it out, and then always ask for more.
Okay.
Especially for a loan, don't go in underfunded. I guess I've seen too many people do that where they've gone in underfunded. So ask for more, as long as you can sell it and get rid of it and get your money back.
Okay.
Well, if I can weigh in on that a little bit too. I mean, we went through some of this with Samantha's business, is that, in some retail operations, you have your staple items that, either they're going to sell when you open the doors, or over a period of time, they're going to sell. And then you kind of have those specialty items, and you want to base your inventory levels based on what they are. If they're specialty, start out with a small amount and see if it does well. And then you could grow into more inventory. I wouldn't just go crazy on something because you think it's the next best thing. Because if that fades out real fast, all of a sudden you're stuck with it, So when Sam started her Liberty or Lose company, her standard t-shirt hat, she had plenty of inventory. But when she did like specialty phrases, she did smaller runs. You sell out, you get some more, or you do something different, So just be cautious with how much inventory you bring in, even if you have the money.
Absolutely.
Okay. Got it. Oh, I have another question.
Shoot.
So some of what I'm going to be doing is going to be, wholesale, and then some of it is I plan on doing consignment. And as I'm talking to different vendors about consignment, I don't really know, and I know that this is going to also be part of what they want to do, but I also want to make sure I'm offering fairly, is that I don't really know what if there's a good standard as to what, like, my take, like, is it like a 60-40 kind of thing? Is it like a 70-30 kind of thing if I'm doing consignment? Is there any advice on that?
I don't have any information on what current consignment rates are going for, but I would certainly make phone calls to other businesses that are consignment shops, and just approach them there and find out what the standard is. And I know, Taylor, you're doing some consignment, but again, different products. And again, it's always negotiable. So that's the first thing I'll say is, remember, it's negotiable. And if you do, leave yourself an opening and say, well, look, it's X amount. Once you do a little bit of research, call some of the consignment shops, find out what they're doing. And then if you're consigning for other people, and say, if I can move X amount of inventory, can we bump it up another 5%, for example? If you're getting 20%, if I move X amount of inventory, can we make that 25%? Just leave yourself an opening. Always don't close a door.
Okay.
Jim, did you have something there?
Yeah, Lazy R&R, we do 20%. That's their standard. I think it's a little bit low, but they're in a position where they want more people to come through the doors, and it gives them a little bit more of a variety, and hopefully their partners are pushing traffic their way. So there's some value to that. But the important thing is, Rod suggested, it's always negotiable. you're giving them an outlet that they wouldn't normally have, that they would have to pay for. And if you're seeing traffic, the negotiated rate should go up in your favor if you're seeing more traffic. So maybe you start with 20%, but as you build business, if you got a line down the street, well, that 20% becomes 50 all of a sudden because more people, more eyeballs, and you're probably moving more product. So there's a number of factors to consider within that, but 20% is probably a good starting point.
Anything
Great.
else?
Thank you guys.
You bet. Anybody else? Gosh, wasn't that fun? It was good to see everybody on the call. We're going to cut it loose before we're all finished up. Again, Jim gave you homework. Everybody needs to call with a question about, I don't care what it is. You want to talk philosophy? I don't care. If you got nothing else, at least do the assignment. All right. Everybody have a great rest of your week.
Good to see everybody. Thank you.